and welcome everybody to Breaking the Cycle radio show with me, Chris Tuck. Welcome to Facebook Live, and today's topic is all about bullying, and this is a subject really close to my heart. And today we'll be discussing all things to do with bullying, and I've had a massive amount of input from my friends, colleagues and fellow survivors on social media. So today is going to be packed full of discussion and packed full of what people are telling me. But I'm going to discuss social issues, and I'm going to try and get to the core of the problem. I don't have all the answers. I don't know the big picture, but what I do know is that bullying affects lives, it affects families, and it has to stop. Somehow we have to come together as a community and say no more. So welcome everyone, and on powerextraradio.co.uk via the app. You can listen to us live if you go to the website and click on live radio. So I want to thank everybody that's had input into this week, and I would love you guys to share, because the more people we can reach with these topics that I discuss on Breaking the Cycle radio show, the more we can normalise the conversation around bullying, around abuse in all its forms, because bullying is just a form of abuse in my opinion. We need to stop, because it is damaging our children, it's damaging our communities, and it's damaging us as adults, and then therefore impacting the next generation. So what is bullying? Bullying is unwanted, aggressive behaviour among school-aged children that involves a real or perceived power imbalance. The behaviour is repeated or has the potential to be repeated over time. Both kids who are bullied and who bully others may have serious, long-lasting problems, and I'm going to share all of that with you today. In order to be considered bullying, the behaviour must be aggressive and include an imbalance of power. Kids who bully use their power, such as physical strength, access to embarrassing information, or popularity, to control or harm others. Power imbalances can change over time and in different situations, even if they involve the same people. Repetition. Bullying behaviours happen more than once or have a potential to happen more than once. Now, there are different types of bullying, guys. There's verbal bullying, social bullying and physical bullying. So verbal bullying is saying or writing mean things. Verbal bullying includes teasing, name calling, inappropriate sexual comments, taunting, threatening to cause harm. Now, some people might say, well, you know, teasing, it's all part of growing up, but I'm hoping to change your mind about this if the teasing to the person that's being teased is not found to be funny anymore and it's causing them distress. Now, social bullying, sometimes referred to as relational bullying, involves hurting someone's reputation or relationships. Social bullying includes leaving someone out on purpose, telling other children not to be friends with someone, spreading rumours about someone, or embarrassing someone in public. Now, physical bullying involves hurting a person's body or possessions. Physical bullying includes hitting, kicking, pinching, spitting, tripping, pushing, taking or breaking someone's things, making mean or rude hand gestures. So bullying, the word bullying encompasses quite a lot of things, and we can have bullying in the home, we can have bullying amongst peer groups, we can have bullying at work, We can have bullying amongst friendship groups or between communities, gangs, for example. Bullying happens all day, everywhere. So as far as school, bullying can occur during or after school hours. Whilst most reported bullying happens in the school building, a significant percentage also happens in places like playgrounds or on the bus. It can also happen travelling to and from school, in where the children, young people are growing up, and bullying can happen on the internet as well. So I've had many survivors that have come to me and told me about their children being bullied, about them being bullied, and about the bullying carrying on into adulthood, into the workplace, into relationships. So it is a massive thing, and it really needs to be stopped. It has to be stopped. The damage that happens when bullying occurs, if it's not stopped, as I said, is immense. And I'm talking from personal experience. It happened to me as a child, in the family home, outside the family home, at school, outside of school, and more recently it's been happening to my daughter. But I do believe there is a right and wrong way of dealing with bullying, and we learn by experience, and we learn by what support we have or don't have, and we also learn or make a choice on how we handle it by the way that we've been brought up, the way that our parents intervened or didn't intervene, and the way that we are triggered by what's going on for us as well. So it can be a very complicated issue, but in essence, it's very simple. If you are causing someone else distress, you have to stop. You have to ask yourself, why are you doing it? Why are you making someone else's life a misery? What have they done to you? Or have they done something to you that's upset you? How can you handle it in a different way so that you are not causing yourself distress by it, and you're not then going to cause other people distress by it? So guys, I've been working on this all week. I'm just going to be talking about bullying myths and facts, some of which you might know, some of which you may not know. So I've got my glasses with me today because as I'm getting older, I seem to be becoming a bit more blinder. Things near my face, so I'm short-sighted. Oh, sorry, I'm long-sighted. So things that are close to me are a bit blurry. So please bear with me. Actually, does it make me look intelligent? I don't know. Here goes. So bullying, a myth. Bullying is a normal part of childhood and you should just ignore it. Fact. Bullying is not normal or acceptable in any form, and ignoring it might not always make it stop. If you can, please confide in someone you trust, such as a parent or teacher, to help you get it stopped. Bullying can knock your self-esteem and confidence. Like everything, guys, there's always caveats to this, isn't there? Please tell someone like a parent or teacher. If you've got a fantastic supportive parent, then great, confide in them. But unfortunately, at least 25% of the population, children, are being abused within their own family environment. So going to parents that are abusing their children and saying, I'm being bullied at school or bullied by people outside of school, you probably are not going to get any help or support because your parents don't see anything wrong in you being bullied because they're actually doing it to you themselves anyway. So in this instance, maybe if you can confide in a friend or a teacher that you know is a safe person for you, then that would be probably your next stop. Okay, myth number 2. Is it okay to hit someone who is bullying you? It will stop it. Fact. It's understandable that you may be angry. If you were to get violent or aggressive, it may make matters much worse, as you may get into trouble too. And again, guys, I understand that if you're being hit or bullied, that you want to hit back. I really do understand that. I've been there in that position. At the beginning, when I was being bullied, I didn't have the guts to hit back because aggression, violence, bullying of any kind frightened me. I didn't like confrontation. I didn't like, I just didn't like being in an arena where there was shouting or fighting or anything of that nature. But it comes to a point where you take, till one day, even the most mouse-like people, they will have a point or a limit at which they will snap. And the people that are being bullied should never, ever reach this point, but they do. I did. And I ended up hitting out at the persons that were bullying me. And at the end of the day, I wasn't proud by my reaction, but it was just a matter of trying to just say, you know what, enough is enough. I've spoke to my parents, nothing happened. I was being abused within the childhood home. I spoke to my teachers, I was told to ignore it. Well, you can only ignore it to a certain point. You know, the name calling, the hitting, the throwing things at you. You can only ignore it to a certain point. And everybody's got their limit. And I did snap. And again, when my anger rose, literally come up from my stomach and rose, and I exploded, I just saw red. That expression, I just saw red. I wasn't thinking about anything else. I was just thinking about, this is it. They're going to get it. And they did get it. But I was so shocked by my reaction and my violent outburst that I had to go to sort out my anger issues, because I never, ever, ever wanted to repeat what I did to that girl. And to this day, I'm not proud of what I did. But there comes a point when no one is listening to you that things will take over. You know, if I was older and I'd lost my temper, and I had an angry outburst as an adult, I could have quite easily been done for some kind of assault on someone else. So we really have to be aware of what triggers our anger. Can we do something about it? Who can we go to help support us and get help? And why is that person or persons or gang or groups of people, why are they actually bullying us in the first place? And I might be saying things that are going to make some of you watching or listening angry today. That is not my purpose. My purpose is to have a frank discussion, an open and honest, transparent conversation about bullying, about its myths, about the impact, about social media, about the whole topic. And let's just start ironing out some of these issues and understand why bullies bully. Because at the end of the day, not all bullies are just horrible people. They've got things going on for them, and I don't condone it in any way, shape or form, but they've got things going on for them that they need to have help and support with. Please just hang on to that and listen to the whole show, then give me your comments, and then I'll come back to you, because there will be another show on this. I know there will be. So, bullies are born this way. It's in their genes. Fact. Bullies often adopt this behaviour from their environment, guys, from their environment. Or sometimes it is a reaction from them being bullied by others. Whatever the case, it is not right. But this may be why they are bullying. Because they are learning from the environment that they're growing up in, the community that they're growing up in, or they are being bullied by others. And some of these points are going to be borne out by people's accounts that I've collected over the course of this week. Bullying only happens in schools. This is another myth. Fact. This is not the case at all. Bullying can happen at to anyone, at any place. It may be out of school, at university, or even college. It can happen when you are out with mates or on the way to and from school, or it can happen at work, in work, when you're socialising. Myth. You can spot a bully from the way they look and act. Fact. There is no such thing as a way a bully looks or acts. There are no specific dress code or behaviour code. And we know this from talking about perpetrators of childhood abuse in all its forms: mental, physical, sexual, or domestic violence. The perpetrator can be anybody from any community, from any background. Myth. Online bullying is just banter and harmless. Fact. People being bullied online is a very serious issue. The bullying can go viral very quickly and make the problem escalate quickly. It is important to take a screenshot of any conversations, messages, or posts that you feel are bullying so that you have a record, just in case you need to take legal action, guys. Myth. Cyberbullying doesn't involve physical harm, so what's the harm? Actually, some people have committed suicide as a result of not seeing any way out of the non-stop harassment, threat and abuses. The emotional scarring stays for a lot longer, and sometimes a person will never get over this. Some websites allow people to post anonymously, which can mean it's very hard to stop this type of abuse. Now, again, being a survivor who's very prevalent on social media with my posts, my videos and everything else that I do work-wise, I am open to a lot of bullying, cyberbullying, but the magic of social media is that I can block people, which is fantastic for me. I used to take everything that was written negatively about me to heart, but I don't anymore, because at the end of the day, I've got a job to do, and that's to raise awareness of the impact of all forms of abuse and get specialist support services in place to help victims and survivors of abuse, which includes bullying, which includes domestic violence, which includes mental, physical and sexual abuse. The thing is with children being bullied at school nowadays as well, because of social media, is the fact that they can't get away from it. Now, in a normal home environment where there is no abuse going on, if you was abused at school, you could go home, you could shut the door and the abuse would stop. It wouldn't follow you home in the form of, if you go on your PC, if you go on your phone, the abuse nowadays follows you because of social media. So we need to be really aware of the role of social media having access to our children in the form of bullying because it can follow them home from school. And if they can't feel safe at home, and I'm talking about a normal family environment, guys, I'm not talking about where there's abuse within the family. If you can't feel safe at home, where can you feel safe? And the reason why I'm highlighting the fact of safe home environments and unsafe home environments, because there are, as I said, at least 25% of the population where there is abuse going on within the family home in the form of domestic violence or child abuse. And in those home environments, it's already an unsafe place. And when that child is then being bullied at school, there's a double whammy. So that child is not feeling safe at home, they're not feeling safe at school. So where can they feel safe? And this is where I am finding a lot of survivors of childhood abuse coming forwards who have been bullied at school, maybe not, who are then going on into domestic violence relationships, not all, but some. And then the abuse just follows them through their lifetime, but so does the impact. And that impact, I've had so many conversations with people over the last week. The impact is absolutely massive. It's impacting their family life, it's impacting them as adults, their children, their relationships, their ability to get an education, their ability to hold down a job. It's just all encompassing. So as a society, we have to stop all forms of abuse, all forms of violence, all forms of bullying. And this includes smacking, which I will come on to in a little while. Going back to the myths, guys. Cyberbullying can only affect someone if they are online and have an account too. This is not true. We often hear of pages and fake accounts being created without person's permission or knowledge. This sort of cyberbullying is on the increase and just as serious as any other form of bullying. Myth. It is not bullying if someone deletes the comments or posts. Regardless of hitting delete, once something is posted online, it gets its own unique URL, which means that it can stay on cyberspace even if you hit delete. Myth. If bullying was so bad, why don't they have a law about it? Fact. Some forms of bullying are illegal and should be reported to the police, including violence or assault, theft, repeated harassment or intimidation, e.g. threats and abusive phone calls, emails or text messages, and hate crimes. Myth. Reporting a bully will make things worse. So this is a myth. Reporting a bully will make things worse. Fact. You may worry that reporting a bully may make the bullying escalate, or they feel they are not believed. It is important to confide in someone you trust so that you can have some help in getting the necessary support to get this stopped. Now, as a mum, and I know what bullying feels like, I still have PTSD about the bullying that I suffered as a child, teenager. When my daughter has been bullied, I get triggered, and all I ever want to do is make sure that my daughter, my children are safe and are happy. That's all I want, bottom line, and I'm sure most loving, nurturing parents want that for their kids. When my daughter has been bullied, it breaks me. I get emotional, I get angry, and it brings everything that I ever felt when I was being bullied, it brings it all back to the fore. And I'm not the only one that has said this. I've got loads of accounts from people that have also said the same. And my daughter actually said to me, Mum, I think you're making a bigger deal of this than it actually is. And I said to her, if it wasn't a big deal, hun, then you wouldn't be crying, you wouldn't be upset, you wouldn't be anxious, and you wouldn't be scared of going into school, would you? And she said, no, Mum, you're right. But she was just also embarrassed and didn't want to be seen to be different by her mum sticking up for her and going into school. Now, I stand by my actions because I'm going to protect my children at all costs. I'm going to go down the right route, the right way to begin with. Okay? And that is to go to the school, ask to see their safeguarding policy, make a report of what's going on, and ask them what they're going to do about it. Yeah? And keep on at them. Writing emails to back up what you've said, get a response from the school, and know the next steps. That's what I've done. My daughter has also, the school have been brilliant actually. My particular school has been brilliant, and I'm not going to name it because those who know me locally know the school that I'm talking about. And I just want to point out right now that all schools have bullying. There ain't one school in this country that there isn't bullying at. There is a bullying problem in schools. There is. So that's a myth I want to bust straight away. But for me, the school's response to this particular bout of bullying, in my opinion, has been fantastic. Not only have they given the bullies sanctions, they've given them help, which they do need. But they've also said that my daughter's self-esteem needs building up, which is absolutely right, it does. My daughter needs to feel safe at school, which she does. So all this week, I've been taking her into school and her anxiety levels have been so high. And I've just said, look, we talk it through. I said, we even do deep breathing exercises to calm her down. Because remember, when a child is in fight and flight, their brains are going all over the place. The physiological reaction to this perceived fear that's going on in their brains needs to be calmed down, shut down, and the reality of the situation talked about. So I've grounded my daughter, as in not taken away her privileges, guys, grounded her literally, brought her down back to earth, brought her back to the moment in time and said, this is what's going to happen if anything else happens to you. You don't need to worry because the school have put this, this and this in place. And if there's anything happening to you, you text me. I will sort it because I'm not allowing any bullying of you to happen when you're meant to be in school, getting an education and enjoying your friendships and enjoying school. Okay? Some people might think I'm overreacting. That's your fault. You're entitled to your opinion, but I don't have to listen to your opinion and I don't have to take on board what you may or may not do. I just know the impact of bullying, and my children are not going to go through what I went through. They are not going to be impacted for the rest of their lives by some child or young person who thinks they've got a right to inflict pain on my children. So, it's easy to spot the signs of bullying. Fact, it is not always easy to spot the signs, because bullying is not always physical and obvious. Emotional, verbal and online bullying can often leave scars that people don't see. And here, guys, we're talking about the mental and psychological impact that bullying can have. Myth, children grow out of bullying. Fact, quite often, children who bully may grow up to be adults who bully or use negative behaviour to get what they want. unless there has been some intervention and their behaviour is challenged by the relevant authorities, whether it be school or parents, these children may grow up to being the next domestic violence individual, the next narcissist at work that's going to bully another their employee or their colleague. So for me now, it's about joining up the dots and looking at the bigger picture of bullying, violence, abuse in general. And where does it start? Where do our children learn this behaviour? Why do they carry on this bullying? How can we break the cycle of this? And for me, it comes back down to boundaries, healthy relationships, what's right, what's wrong, being kind, being respectful, being tolerant of others, having a judicial system that is fit for purpose, having enough money in the pot for support services for parents that are struggling to bring up their children in the appropriate way, for bullies that have been bullied themselves and need help and support, for victims of bullying and abuse to get that right help and support. We need interventions all along the line. Otherwise, today's victim may be tomorrow's bully in the playground, at work, in the home environment. It is all linked, guys. I know we don't want to think about these things being linked. We want to think of them about being in isolation, but they're not in isolation. So we have to start looking at the cause, the root causes of all of this stuff that is going on. Right, guys, before I move on, I'm just going to play a tune. So we've just talked about what is bullying and the myths and facts around bullying. And I'm just going to play a tune just so I can collect my thoughts. And I'm going to play you Don't Stop Believing. So if you're watching on Facebook Live, please go and have a break for a couple of minutes. And I will see you back here in 3 minutes' time. Lovely. Welcome back to Breaking the Cycle radio show with me, Chris Tuck. And today we are exploring everything that you can think of to do with bullying. So again, Facebook Live, welcome. Please share the Facebook Live. I'd really appreciate it. And if you're listening on to powerextraradio.co.uk, you can listen to us live and enjoy the music that I play at intervals just to break up these heavy topics that I'm discussing. So guys, before we move on to impact of bullying, I want to talk about verbal bullying and is it bullying or is it banter? So it can be confusing for someone to try and work out whether name calling is banter or bullying. A young person going through something like this might feel intimidated or feel under pressure not to make a fuss because others are saying it's just a joke. If it is a one-off incident, it may be banter. However, if the name calling is persistent and regular, this is bullying. It is equally about how you are feeling too. If it makes you uncomfortable and you have told them to stop, but they continue calling you names, then this is classified as verbal bullying. Verbal bullying can be anything about weight, appearance, race, sex, or homophobic comments. Name calling has been around for what may seem to be forever, but for someone who is on the receiving end of this, it can have devastating consequences. Now, we've seen this, guys, haven't we? Posts all over social media where children of all different ages have committed suicide over bullying. And in some instances, the parents haven't known that their children are going through horrendous, horrific bullying, and this has made their child take their lives and has devastated the family. So why do these children feel that they have to endure this form of violence, abuse, yeah? And they've got no one to turn to. Why is that? Why have we become a society, and I'm not talking about all of us, I'm just talking about general. Why is it that we've become a society that allows this to happen? Why? Now, why do bullies do what they do? It's very difficult to understand why someone wants to throw insults at another person on a regular basis, especially if they've been asked to stop or told to stop. There may be various reasons for someone acting this way towards another person. It might be about impressing their friends or building up some kind of perceived reputation. They may have been bullied themselves, and to deflect the attention from themselves, they take it out on other people, or because they are angry. So their anger within themselves is so destructive that they decide that they're not going to be bullied themselves, so they're going to strike out before someone else can strike them out or bully them or cause them more pain. Some people enjoy the attention and the reaction. And again, guys, I've seen videos circulating on social media where groups of individuals decide to pick on one person in the form of name calling to start with, and then physical violence, so hitting them, pulling their hair, pulling them along the ground, because they can. And there are groups of people around the person that's doing the bullying, egging them on, basically saying it's okay, and even filming it and putting it all over social media. Well, when I see these videos, I get triggered. So I can't watch these videos. I actually report them for they shouldn't be on social media, because for some children who are potential bullies, they think that it's okay for them. They watch a video like that and they think that it's okay for them to go and do the same thing. Well, it's not okay, yeah? And if you were my child being the bully in one of these videos, or being a bystander in one of these videos, I would be talking to you, making sanctions against you, and making sure that you fully understand what it is that you're doing, and getting you into therapy to make sure that you don't go on to become an even bigger bully, and also understanding why are you doing this in the first place, because we need to crack both sides of the nut, so to speak, or both sides of the coin. So that would be you if you were my child. Now I'm going to come on to leathering, spanking and all the rest in a little while. Someone made a comment that I hope many people, actually, it wasn't one person, it was many people, that think that bullies need to be hit, leathered, treated the way that they are bullying the other children, the victims. I do not agree with this at all. Some of you might, but I don't. I don't agree with this, because at the end of the day, violence breeds violence. And if you think that you are teaching your bully child a lesson by beating them up, it's a double standard. It's a double standard. You have to be saying to your child, what the hell are you doing? Do you not know what havoc you're creating, the impact that you're creating of doing what you're doing? And whatever they enjoy in life, you stop them enjoying what they're doing. Yeah, that is their discipline. That is their punishment. There has to be a different way. We have to break the cycle of violence on violence on violence. Yeah. Now, again, there are people out there that go, you know, I was smacked as a kid, didn't do me any harm. Again, if you came from a loving, nurturing family where you got a smack like that, then yeah, maybe it didn't do you any harm. But I also know, right, and I'm going to come back to this over the next hour or so, I also know that there are so many parents out there from all communities and all cultures that whip their kids, that use instruments on their kids, that cause their kids serious harm from spanking, from leathering. Yeah? This is violence, guys. We need to understand what we are doing to our children. We need to be role models for our children. Yeah. We need to be the role models. We need to be making sure that our children understand respect. They understand healthy relationships. They understand what abuse is and what abuse isn't. If we are violent to our children by smacking them, spanking them, leathering them, whipping them, shouting at them to an extent where they become fearful of us. Now, I've seen videos on social media where there are mums and dads that have hit the living daylights out of their kids to teach them a lesson. No, it doesn't teach them a lesson. It teaches them to be fearful, to be manipulative, and to have so much anger inside them that they go on potentially to be a bigger bully or destructive or violent towards other people or even themselves. Yeah, so we need to look at the bigger picture and we need to understand what we're doing. And it starts at home with us being good parents, good role models. It also needs to be within the community that we're in. It also needs to be within the schools that our children go to and the children that our children hang out with. Education is key. Implementation of that education is key to breaking the cycle around all of this abuse. Now, I really would be interested in your comments, guys, about all of this. And again, I'm not going to get to comments today on Facebook Live because I've got so much to get through. But I will be coming back to this potentially next week because I've got something else that I want to talk about. So, how does bullying make us feel? Someone who is being bullied may feel lots of different emotions. Often, a young person may act like they are okay on the outside, but inside they may be feeling very low. They may not want to show how they are really feeling in case others think that they are making a big deal out of nothing or cannot take a joke, and perhaps they are even worried it may get worse. They may also start to believe the verbal bullying, and this can and usually does knock their self-esteem. To understand how a person feels on the inside, it's important to try and see how they might be feeling if they are being called these names on a day in and day out basis. Many young people say to us that they often feel some of the following emotions: depressed, anxious, isolated, withdrawn, suicidal, humiliated, low, upset, angry, frustrated, start to believe or blame themselves. A person might bottle up their emotions and try not to let their family and friends show it. It can be hard for someone to feel all of these things and try and keep it to themselves, and this will often result in a behaviour change. They may show their feelings in other ways. Now, some people who haven't been bullied, they were asked, how do you think a person who is being bullied would show that they were being bullied? And this is what some of the people said. They said that victims may self-harm, they may feel depressed, they may withdraw socially and stop going out, they may avoid social media or messenger or all the other forms of social media. They feel anxious about going to school. They may feel angry and be aggressive. They may bully others. They may develop an eating disorder. They may turn to drink or taking drugs. Now, everything that I've read out today, everything that I've discussed so far, victims of childhood abuse feel this. They show all of these signs. So, abuse in all its forms: childhood abuse, bullying, mental, physical, sexual abuse, domestic violence. There's a great big thread going through all of this. Why do people do it? I've read it out. How does it make us feel? It makes us all feel the same. How do we cope? I've just read it out. How do we feel? Now, guys, it's really important to understand, how can we make this stop? And at the moment, we're talking about verbal bullying. Now, sorry, I've got to put my glasses on again. Up, down, up, down. It's never easy to try and get the bullying to stop. It can take a lot of courage to try and take a stand against bullying. You may have reached a point where you feel unable to take on any more, and trying to get it stopped is really challenging and hard. You may be worried that if you report the bullying, it may get worse, and in some cases it does. But you have to ask yourself, can you really take much more, or how will you cope if it escalates? Now, to try and get the bullying to stop, you could do the following. Report the bullying to a teacher or someone at school that you feel safe with. They may be able to take action and get the bullying to stop. If you are worried that it is going to make it worse, perhaps you can get the teacher to keep an eye on it, and then when they see it for themselves, they can take action. Tell a parent or family member. This can give you lots of strength, and a parent or family member can help you get the bullying to stop. They can also give you lots of emotional support. It's important to try and tell someone in your family what is going on so that you are not bottling feelings up. Talking about what you are going through can give you courage to get it to stop. Now again, as I've said, there's always that caveat, isn't there? If you've got these loving, nurturing parents or family members, fantastic. If you haven't, who do you turn to? There are a lot of, because I've been doing my research online, there are a lot of fantastic websites where I've got some of this information from today. This particular website is called www.bullying.co.uk, and they've got fantastic resources on there for victims of bullying, for parents, for people that want to help, so peers that want to help stop bullying of their friends. They've got an online forum, they've got a helpline. So if you really, really are stuck and you don't know where to turn, then go and Google bullying and how to stop it, and you will find some resources out there that will help you. I was actually amazed at how much there was out there that can help. Now, be assertive with the bully and say their name calling is boring or making them look stupid. However, it is important to ensure that this course of action doesn't cause them to become more aggressive or make the bullying worse. You may think a quiet chat with them when they are on their own may work, but if you do so, please take a friend with you for support. Now again, guys, with the first lot of bullying that my daughter went through a couple of years ago, the school thought it was a good idea to actually get the girls involved in a room to discuss the situation. You know, what do you think bullying is? Why have you done what you've done? How do you think that makes the victim feel? How can we sort this out? How can we stop it happening in the future? So the school did like general assemblies about bullying and what would happen, what the consequences would be if you are a bully, or if you are a bully and you don't like being a bully, but you don't know how to stop it. You can come here for this particular type of help. If you are a victim of bullying, you can come here to this person and we can get you help. So it all helps, but the school has to have a policy in place, and then the policy needs to be seen to being implemented so that children have faith in the school's ability to deal with the bullying. And again, I always go back to this phrase, zero tolerance. We have to have a zero tolerance, because if we start saying, oh, you know, oh, it's just banter, it's just kids being teenagers, it's just this, it's just that, it's so grey that it needs to be black and white. It needs to be spelled out. So schools that adopt a zero tolerance approach to bullying and have a culture of praise and a culture of being kind and respectful and tolerant of others is the way to go, in my opinion. Now, to continue on how to get verbal bullying to stop. Ignore it and walk away. Well, that is always a choice, isn't it? And in some instances, that is the only way. Because some bullies will never change. They are just plain, horrible, vindictive, nasty individuals that will come back time and time and time again, and interventions just don't work. And I do believe that these people, you just have to walk away from them. You know, when I was growing up, I did walk away from my bullies time and time again, but they kept seeking me out. If bullies are seeking you out, then their intent is to cause you pain, and they need to be dealt with. They need the book thrown at them, the law of the land thrown at them, because they will not stop at any cost. And I know a particular person is watching. I'm not going to name them. I'm not going to talk about what's going on for them. And I know that him and his family have endured non-stop bullying and everything that we've discussed so far. Him and his family have been through sheer hell, and they deserve not to be going through this. So they need the law on their side to sort out what's happening to him and his family, because it's not right, should not be tolerated. And unfortunately, social media being as it is, more and more people are getting involved, and it can escalate and it can get out of hand, and it can bring more misery on a particular family that's going through this. And somewhere the line has got to be drawn, and the police get involved, the police sort it out, the schools sort it out. And maybe, I know this has happened to other families, they've had to move communities to get away from what they're going through. So, guys, quite often the bully stops when they are no longer receiving attention or reaction from the bullying. It is always difficult to try and ignore it, especially when it's so upsetting or if it's constant. But if they don't get a reaction, it can stop. And in some cases, I have heard that this has been successful, but not in all cases. It's really important to try and keep your cool in these situations, even though name calling, bullying may make you very angry. It is natural to feel this way, but if you get aggressive and things turn nastier or physical, then someone can get seriously injured or in trouble with the police. This is why it's important to get some help and get the bullying to stop. Verbal bullying can and does affect people's feelings, their mental health and their physical health. If you see someone being called an insult, then you may think that they are just taking it as a joke, but inside, how a person actually feels may not actually show. If it becomes regular, they may change their behaviour as a result of the bullying that they're going through. It can affect all areas of their lives, including their friendships, their schoolwork, and their family life. Guys, I cannot express how emotional this makes me feel, how bad I feel for victims that are going through bullying, especially when it is overtaking your life, when it's affecting your mental and your physical health, and it's affecting everybody in the family. I know that if you've been through it yourself, if you've got children going through it, you want to protect them at all costs. I know that it causes you to be angry. I know it will want you to go and seek revenge, but I also know that this potentially can blow up in your face. It can get you into trouble. It can make other people get involved and it will escalate it. So I just implore you to try and go down the right routes first of all, and get yourself some support, get your children some support, and get the bullies dealt with in the right way, so that you are there for your family. You are not hurt as a result of the violence escalating, because a whole community can get involved in this, guys. Yeah, a whole community. When I was being brought up on a council estate in Penge, South East London, and I fell out with a particular girl on the estate, the whole estate got involved, and I've never felt so frightened in my entire life. Being followed to and from school, having no one to talk to at school because of what was going on, going home and having domestic violence at home and having no support at home. It's horrendous. It's awful. And it's only now as an adult I can sit here with hindsight and say what I'm saying. First and foremost, parents need to be there for their children. They need to go to schools. They need to, if you know the parents and you're friendly with the parents, maybe have a chat with the parents. It worked for me in one incident. It's not worked with me for others. So I've gone down the school route. And if I have to, I will go down the police route. But I'm just trying to get it sorted in the right way first. Yeah. Right, moving on to sexual bullying. Sexism is a behaviour, language or prejudice which expresses institutionalised, systemic and comprehensive discrimination. It's based on a stereotypical view of masculine and feminine roles. Sexism limits the options of women and girls and can lead to discrimination or less favourable treatment. It is a learned behaviour, however, and can therefore be unlearned. Unfortunately, there are many instances where sexism and this form of stereotyping comes into play. Rated and slated is when boys are encouraged to be sexually active and have multiple partners, and if they achieve this, they get rated by their peers. However, if a girl makes the same choice as the boy, she gets slated for the same thing and bullied. We all have a responsibility to teach children and young people to break the barriers of being stereotyped for their gender. We often see from a young age, children are conditioned into play with gender-based toys, where it's cars for boys and dolls for girls. However, any child should be able to play with any toy as part of their healthy development and not be judged for this. This comes into play in the world of employment too, and a young person should be encouraged to make a career choice based on their interests and skills and not their gender. Effects of sexualised bullying. Evidence shows that sexualised bullying is increasing and it is linked to domestic violence and other gender-based violence such as rape and sexual assault. A survey in 2006 by teenage girls magazine Sugar, what a name, revealed that 45% of teenage girls surveyed had been groped against their wishes. 56% of unwanted sexual experiences occurred for the first time when girls were under 14 years of age. 51% of unwanted sexual experiences occurred more than once and left girls feeling dirty, ashamed, guilty, worried, insecure, angry, powerless and frightened. What these stats show is the increasing sexualization of society can be confusing to young people who are unsure about what is acceptable in sexual activity or how far is too far. Sexual bullying can undermine someone's dignity and safety, as well as affect their emotional well-being and lead to depression, isolation, eating disorders, self-harming. It's very common for sexual bullying to go viral online and offline, and there is no let-up for the person on the receiving end. Boys are just as much victims of sexual bullying as girls. Boys too feel powerless to stop it, pressurized to do something they do not want to do, and called names if they choose not to be promiscuous or are not perceived to fit their peers' ideas of masculinity. The scars of these effects can last a lifetime if not supported and encouraged to address these feelings. How to help someone. It's important that children and young people are educated on the issues of sexual bullying from a young age. This education should come from the home and a teacher. So, as far as I'm concerned, bullying, childhood abuse, domestic violence, online, offline abuse, zero tolerance, education, boundaries, healthy relationships, consent, everything that I've been banging on about for years needs to be addressed in the school curriculum as part of the PSCHE part of the curriculum. Now guys, it's right, okay, I'm going to talk for a few more minutes and then I'm going to have another song, and then we are going to start talking about some survivors' accounts of what they've gone through. Okay, right, so how can we help someone who has been bullied? So we've talked about some of the signs already. So if you're a young person, if anyone in your class is taking a lot of time off, getting to school late, or trying to avoid being in a situation like toilets or changing rooms, they may be being bullied. If you hear someone being called names, but not loudly, but you can overhear it, they are probably being bullied. Especially if the name calling, guys, is persistent. Are rumours being spread by certain people about a certain person, i.e. the victim? Are you hearing rumours about one person in particular? They will be being bullied. Is a certain person being left out of things? Do you know that person in your class or in your school year that's picked last or left out of everything, or they're on their own at lunchtime? Maybe you can be the bigger person and start including that person in your friendship group. This is about being kind and respectful and tolerant of people's differences, guys. This is about being the bigger person and being a role model to the bullies that may be in your school. Are there lots of social events happening, but particular people that you know are being left out of? How can you include them in social activities? Do you know someone that's receiving nasty phone calls or abuse on the internet or instant messaging? Do you know of someone outside of your friendship group or outside of all friendship groups that are on their own, or or are different to you? I was different to a lot of kids at school because of the way that I was dressed, because I smelt, because I was always hungry, because I was a bit geeky, because I avoided toilets at lunchtime, because I spent my time in the library. It's because I was being bullied, guys, being left out of everything. I was different. I know so many people in the same shoes as me that were the same, and still to this day, there are so many families on the breadline. There are so many children that are different and are struggling. Why should they be picked out and picked upon? We have got to, as parents, teach our children to be kind and caring to the children that are going through stuff like I've just described, so we can start breaking the cycle of bullying and abuse. Within schools. Now, my daughter doesn't want for anything. She's got a roof over her head, she's got a new uniform, she's got food in her belly, she's getting a great education, yet she's still being bullied. So it's not all about poverty. It's not all about because you come from a council estate that you're being picked on at school. It's just where you are perceived to be different for some reason, that a particular group of individuals or one person who's trying to get popular thinks that they can pick upon you and get away with it. Zero tolerance approach to bullying. Schools have got to have a policy. They have to follow through with this policy, and they need to work with the parents that are victims. They need to work with the victims, and they also need to work with the bullies to understand what the hell is going on for them and give them help and support, but also punish them in the right way by having sanctions against them and take away whatever they enjoy doing, take it away from them for a period of time and make them understand what the hell that they are doing. So, whilst I collect myself, I will play another tune. So if you are on social media, Facebook Live watching, please go for a break and I will be back with you literally in one moment. And I'm playing Holding Out for a Hero because I think it's fitting right at this juncture. Hello everybody and welcome back to Breaking the Cycle radio show at powerextraradio.co.uk. So, sorry about that, I was just getting a bit emotional before the song, breaking out or waiting for a hero, holding out for a hero. It's been a tough week when I've been putting this together, very tough week for me, because as I said, I've been triggered and it's not a nice place to be. But it's the reality of the situation. So I'm now going to read out some live, true accounts of bullying that I've received privately and on social media from last week. So I do apologise if any of this triggers anybody in advance, but I promise to read these out because these brave people decided to share with me what has gone on for them. And really, everything that I'm going to read out now, guys, is backing up what we've already discussed for the first hour and, well, nearly first hour and a half of this show. So this is from Jan. I'm only reading out first names, guys. So this is from Jan. Hi, Chris. I was both abused and bullied at school. It felt like a constant battle of hatred till I eventually thought it was normal and that I must deserve it. I tried to take my life twice as a teenager. It's still a battle as I still feel small enough for people to take their shite out on me or go through my mentally and physically like I'm not there or I don't count. And that feels like it's my fault because I was ground down to accept it from young. So this is an adult who was abused and bullied and tried to take her life twice as a teenager. This next account is from Tracy. Hi Chris, I was bullied from 7 until 16. It started at 7 because of who I was and the family I came from. My school was non-school uniform and we were often made to wear ill-fitting uniform, dirty, broken shoes, etc. And I smelt bad and had head lice. I was being sexually abused and physically abused at the time and I had nobody to tell. I had nobody to confide in. The teachers didn't do anything about it. I fought my way through. I would fight anyone for any reason. There wasn't anyone I was afraid of. In the grand scheme of things, I guess I felt different from others in a negative way. I felt like I am odd, etc., and I should be disliked. I have anxiety in similar situations. The way it affects me now is anxiety. And when I brought my kids up, I was totally on the ball for baths, head lice, nice haircuts, and the latest clothes. It was also a downfall. I wish I hadn't spoilt them, but I never wanted them to say that they didn't have what their friends had. So again, that's another example of Tracy as a parent overcompensating for what she went through as a child and actually spoiling her children because she didn't want them to be different. I was the same to a certain extent with my kids. They always had new uniform to go back to school with. They never were allowed to have holes in their socks or really like badly scuffed shoes and things like that because I felt that people judged me or they would get bullied because they didn't have not the latest stuff, because I'm not into fashion, as you can tell from the clothes I wear. I'm not into fashion, I'm into comfort. But for my kids, it was all about just looking decent, hygienically clean, and so they wouldn't be bullied for that. So if they were going to be bullied for something, it wasn't going to be for the basics. And that is why I worked so damn hard up to the age of 28 to make sure that the kids had a roof over their head, that I had money in the bank to buy them what they needed, the basics, and they always had food in their belly, because I knew and I know what it feels like to not to have those things and to be bullied because of it. So thank you, Jan, and thank you, Tracy. So I'm now reading from K, not the letter K, because I don't want to give this person's identity away. I didn't suffer CSA or CSE, but I was severely bullied both in primary and secondary school. And yes, it affected the person I would become. Anxiety, depression, very low self-esteem. I struggled through my teens and young adulthood. Very lonely and isolated. Even though I was surrounded by friends and family. So again, this particular individual had lovely friends and family, yet she was going through horrific bullying, and she felt that she couldn't turn to her friends and family. So she felt lonely and isolated. Never felt good enough, never felt pretty enough, never felt like I fit in. You get the drift, says this individual, Kay. Breaks my heart, guys. So, you know, as parents, the thing that we can do is to teach our children, you know, the 3 and 4 that I'm always going on about, teaching our children, if they've not been bullied and they're not bullies, to stick up for those that are being bullied, and to actually say to the bullies, hang on a minute, what you're doing is nasty and it got to stop. This is from Angela. I was bullied at school, both primary and secondary schools. I experienced child sexual abuse, both from a family member and a boy at school. Now again, we've not really touched upon peer-on-peer abuse. That has skyrocketed, up 700% according to forgotten his name, our Home Secretary. I'm going to Google him. I've forgotten his name. He spent a good 30 minutes last week talking on TV about personally sorting out online abuse, and peer-to-peer abuse is up 700%. So back to Angela. The impact of being bullied and CSA by a family member and a boy at school is that I didn't have a safe place. I had nowhere to turn for help or support. I hardly spoke. I had a childhood of betrayal. I left school, got a job, tried to sort out my life, but had various setbacks, but eventually trained as a counsellor. Thank you, Angela. Thank you. No, it's the new Home Secretary, Alex. Let me just Google him. Let me just Google before I read another account out. Oh, my Facebook's going mental. Come on. Let me just Google him. People shouting at me now because you all know who I mean, but I don't know who I mean. Who is Home Secretary? Sajid Javid. That's why I couldn't remember his name. Sajid Javid is the new Home Secretary since 30th April 2018, and he stood up and made a very, very, very long speech on TV that I've posted on my Facebook, on my social media, and said that he's personally going to battle online abuse. So you can watch that. There's loads of media coverage around that you can check up upon. Right, so the next account is from Michaela. I was bullied at school through the whole of my secondary years, whilst also experiencing child abuse out of school at the same time. This time of my life was obviously incredibly difficult, but with the bullying in addition, it caused me to become suicidal many times. Due to what was going on outside of school, I felt very isolated at school and different to everyone else. I behaved differently. I found it hard to socialise as I couldn't relate to my peers about simple things like the latest bands, etc. Simply because of my life out of school was one of abuse, I had no idea about other things. Due to this, I was viewed as a loner, which further promoted the bullies to view me as an easy target since I had no backup from anyone. I was called names on a daily basis and told continually how not and told continually that I wasn't loved by my parents. They never noticed that I was at because they noticed they were never at school events, etc. It made me feel worthless and trapped in a place where I couldn't escape. Abuse at school and abuse at home. I didn't know where to turn other than to turn all the negativity on myself, and that's when I made suicide attempts and become self-harming. I gave up even trying to fit in, and this became my norm. I was too frightened to speak out about school or home, as I feared if I did, it would get even worse. Bullying at school increased as the years went on. It became physical. It became online. I was too scared to go anywhere and say anything. As an adult now, I still have flashbacks of the bullying I endured and anger, wanting to know why me? Why did you do this to me? I also overly worry about my children being bullied at school due to the experiences that I've had. And even though I got through those years, the feelings it made me have and the cruel words that were said to me or typed about me still go through my head and cause me to feel low and even sometimes think they were right. Guys, this is from Ursula. It was another dirty secret because I never told my parents or anyone about bullying. I was called a kraut and Nazi because my mum was German. I never told her. I stopped going to school. Nobody noticed, which reinforced my belief that I was worthless. Thus I left school with no education. And then I asked Ursula how this impacted her. She said, low paid work. I couldn't help my children with their homework. Then in my 40s, I took level 3 English and maths, then graduated with honours at the age of 47. So many wasted years where I could have been doing something I love instead of cheap manual labour. And as a single parent, that impacted both my children, and in a way still does, even though they are now young adults. Thank you. Then we've got Michelle's account. I was bullied at secondary school as my school was one of the few schools that didn't have a school uniform policy. This meant students wore what they want. They wore what they wanted. I was bullied for not having, say, designer trainers, for being made to wear trousers that were too short, for being sent to school in clothes that were dirty. The bullying reinforced my idea that I was indeed different to the other students. I never felt like I fitted in with my peers, and this feeling has followed me throughout my life. I didn't want to socialise as a child because I felt inadequate to the other children. There were pressures even back then to fit in, and I wasn't going to fit in when I was the tramp, as I was called. I always feel inadequate and struggle to socialise, but it's hard to know how much the bullying contributed contributed to this because of the ritual abuse I was enduring at home. Still, despite the bullying, I enjoyed school and still saw it as a place of safety. Anywhere was safer than home. The school bullies were the least of my worries. Now, Michelle carries on and says she doesn't hold any grudges towards her bullies as they were just children themselves. But bullying is still wrong, and if I knew a child today was being treated like this, or how I was treated, I would be having words with the teachers at least. Michelle says, my brother, on the other hand, became a bully to the point of another student needing hospital treatment. This actual highlights abused children that are angry can take that anger out on other children. It doesn't make it right, but when teachers intervene, they need to look at why the pupil is bullying. And I agree with this. Even though I do not condone bullying, I still think we need to understand why the bully is bullying. Are they just a nasty person, or is there things going on for them that they need help with to break that cycle? Michelle says they may be being abused or witnessing domestic violence. And I think this is part of the key, guys. What is going on within the family walls? What are the kids seeing? Are they seeing domestic violence? Are they witnessing unhealthy relationships? Are they hearing shouting, verbal abuse? Are they seeing sexual abuse? Are they enduring sexual abuse? What is going on for that child to make them act out, explode, or implode? What is going on? How can we break the cycle? It's so important. We have got to get back to the root causes of all of this. So I said to Michelle, I can't condone bullying and don't want my kids hurt in any way, so we'll do whatever it takes to stop it, but in the right way. But when it comes to dealing with the bully, they have to be dealt with appropriately depending on them, their circumstances, and why. And again, I know some of you out there on social media, listening to the radio or watching Facebook Live now or on catch up, are not going to agree with everything that I'm saying, and that is fine. But there has to be a different way of breaking this violence, the cycle of violence that is going on, because the next generation needs to be more thoughtful, kinder, more tolerant, more respectful. And you don't get those traits, guys, by beating the living daylights out of your children, because we need to be their role models for change in a better world. Now, Lee says, bullied a lot due to my height and my name, because at home I was physically intimidated and grew up in a culture of violence. I was quite swift to defend myself. Ours was a pretty brutal grammar school where bullying was rife, but I had become quite a scrapper, so any lad or lass who thought it was okay to step up against me was likely to receive more than they bargained for. I wouldn't start, but I was prepared to finish, if needs be, both on behalf of myself and other victims too, come to that. I mostly hung out with the lads, a very small group of girls, and increasingly engaged in sports that removed me from much of the unpleasantness which in all truth came primarily from the catty girls. Did it impact my schooling? Massively at secondary level. I came out with some very poor results, but was lucky enough to scrape enough to get into college, where I flourished in a new environment. Now, there was a very brave lady called Rosie who said that I could share her account, and she came on to the social media post and she said this: I'm ashamed to say I was a bully. I was tortured at home in every way possible and took my anger out on others at school. Although looking back, it shakes me to know I was horrid to some people. As an adult, I now know better and wish I could go back to the younger me and tell her she didn't need to be so bloody awful to others. I was prosecuted twice in the youth courts for it and sadly wore it as a badge of honour back then, but I've grown up a lot since. Now, Rosie's not the first person to admit that she was a bully and as an adult regrets bullying other people. In Rosie's circumstance, there was other mitigating circumstances, which I'm going to read out to you in a moment. But there were the adults that were bullies as children, as I said, were when they understood the impact of what their bullying caused, was so disgusted with themselves. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? So we need to be somehow teaching our children, our young people, that kindness is the thing to be praised and bullying and abuse is the thing not to be tolerated, and that there will be consequences for bullying and abuse in all its forms, but not by dishing out more violence towards them, because we need to be role models. We need to change this. Right, so I wrote to Rosie after she made that comment and just wanted more information from her. She said, I wasn't very nice, Chris. I was nasty to everyone. If I was looked at the wrong way, I lashed out. If I saw someone with a weakness, I capitalised on it, and I started fights for no reason. I hit others because I felt like it humiliated people for fun, etc. I wasn't very nice to a lot of people. I was constantly angry at my home life. I picked on people who were afraid to stand up to me. I should add though, I was bullied at primary school for being scruffy, unkept and dirty. I never had a toothbrush until I was 13, and I bought one myself with my paper round money, and I was the kid in the dirty grey socks, a hat that should have been white, and I only ever wore hand-me-down clothes as money was spent on alcohol in the home. I tended to play with the other scruffy kids. Then at age 10, on my sixth form primary school, I changed and I recreated a persona of someone not to be messed with. So again, Rosie's account, guys, shows that if you're bullied enough, you can decide never to be bullied again and become a bully. So this is what I'm saying. Just saying all bullies need to be punished, reprimanded, without understanding why, will not break the cycle and not break the impact. We really need to get to grips with what is going on for the victim and get them support, rebuild their self-esteem. It wasn't their fault. The shame, anything that they're feeling needs to be sorted out, and they need to be praised, they need to be built up, and they need to be just encouraged to do the best that they can and deal with the impact of what they've gone through. But equally, the bullies, are they a nasty person? Genuinely, are they a nasty person? Or have they got stuff that's going on for them that needs to be dealt with so that they can become the nice people that in essence they may be? I'm throwing that out there to you guys. This whole show is about having a conversation, about getting to the root causes of bullying, the root causes of abuse, the root causes of violence. Yeah. And breathe. Right. We've literally got 5 minutes to wind this all up. And I think, you know what, I'm going to come back to this next week, guys, because there's so much that I still need to say. However, key findings from Ditch the Label, and I'm going to print this report off because they did this report in 2016, but there's an up-to-date report that they did in 2018 that my printer decided it didn't want to print this morning. But key findings: 1.5 million young people have been bullied within the past year. 19% of these bullied every day. People who have been bullied are almost twice as likely to bully others. Twice as many boys as girls bully. 57% of female respondents have been bullied, 44% of male respondents, and 59% of respondents who have identified as transgender have been bullied. 24% of those who have been bullied go on to bully. Based on their own definition, 14% of young people admit to bullying somebody. 20% of all young people have physically attacked somebody. 44% of young people who have been bullied experience depression. 41% of young people who have been bullied experience social anxiety. 33% of those being bullied have suicidal thoughts. Doesn't make for a very encouraging picture, does it, guys? And I'm really sad to be saying I'm the one that's bringing all of this out into the open, into a show, Breaking the Cycle radio show. So really, what I want to talk about next week is social media and its impact in more in-depth degree. I want to talk about how we do things differently. How do we move forwards? Because I think this is really, really important. But just as headlines, as parents, we need to be the positive role models because children learn from their environment. They do emulate their parents or their environment, their community, their peers. I want to talk about smacking in more detail. I want to talk about domestic violence. I want to talk about the link between them all. And I want to talk about education, boundaries, positive nurturing relationships. But in the meantime, guys, the resources that I've used, definitely one website in particular, www.bullying.co.uk. Lots of resources on there, guys, including helplines and a chat room. And next week, as I said, I want to talk about all of those things, but I want to talk about overcoming bullying, the law on smacking children, and an update on what's going on with my daughter without giving away details. I want to talk about safeguarding policies in schools. And if you live in the Bromley, Beckenham, Penge, Crystal Palace area or London and you want to come on the radio show next week, please get in touch and maybe you'll come on the show and have a conversation with me. If you work in safeguarding, perhaps you come on the show and have a conversation with me. That would be fantastic. And for those people that this Facebook Live or Power Extra Radio show has brought feelings and memories up for, I'm sorry I didn't want to trigger anybody, but we need the conversation. Real talk, real issues, real people. That's what this show's about. I apologise if I've triggered anyone or traumatised anybody. Please speak to your support network. Please, if you belong to a group on social media, go in there and discuss whatever has been brought up for you, because I want you to keep safe. If you're in counselling, like I am, speak to your counsellor about anything that has come up for you. Get those feelings out. If you have got anger management issues, guys, please go speak to your GP, or if you can afford it, go to an anger management counsellor and get yourself sorted. If you are in an unhealthy relationship, maybe you need to start looking at that relationship, looking at the impact that it's having on you as a person, having on your partner as a person, having on your children. Maybe it's time to hold up the mirror to yourself and ask how you can react differently to what is going on for you, so you don't pass the consequences down to your children and future generations. So guys, this is Chris Tuck on the Breaking the Cycle radio show, signing out for this week, and I'll catch you next week with an update with what's going on and to discuss all of those things that I've just said in the last 5 minutes. So, Facebook people, I'll see you next week. And if you are listening on powerextraradio.co.uk, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Please share, and I will see you all next week at 2 o'clock. Bye for now, guys.